and welcome to Tea Talk, where the topics are real, relevant, and relaxing. It's Tea Talk time, and here is Lady O.
Thank you, Shelley. Tracy. Sorry. It's been one of those days, so bear with me. But listen, I'm all kind of turned upside down about the topic today. As we are closing out the Women's History Month, we have a subject that we must talk about, ladies, that we don't want to talk about. So it's called Women and the Men Who Abuse Them. And it could be other people. So let's just say women and the people who abuse them, because many times the abuse could come from your own children. It could be come from your mother or father, your parents. That abuse could come from coworkers, sisters, brothers. It could come from anywhere. But as we celebrate women this month, we can't stop. We can't go forward without talking about the real issues that women face that keep us sometimes from celebrating them as much. It keeps them from being able to enjoy the celebrations much because let's face it, if you're being abused, no matter how much people try to turn around and say, oh, here are some flowers, the flowers don't mean anything, right? So we're going to talk about abuse. So get everybody on the phone because your children need to hear this so that they will not want to go that way. We're going to talk about not only the abuse, but how it affects each one of us. And my team is here today. We're all the ladies that are going to be a part of the team today. So they're going to share some statistics, some information, where to get help, also how it affects you as a woman to witness abuse of your mother or your sister or siblings growing up. They're going to talk about how it has affected their parenting or their relationships with the men in their lives who are not abusers, but they're going to talk about everything. So just get ready, invite your family and friends in because listen, we had a message last week, Pastor Johnny preached about the women and how when they are abused, that not only are they hurt by the abuser, but they're hurt by the people who look the other way and say nothing, act like they don't see anything. They don't come to protect you. They don't believe you. So there's so many ways that women have been abused, and especially the African American women. See, it affects women at a great level, but in African American homes, it affects them even greater than all other women. And then it also trickles down to the African American children at a greater level. So let's get into this show today. And so put your questions in, put your comments in, call your family and friends and tell them we need to hear this. So we need to stop the violence on women. We need to love our sisters. And as we celebrate them, make sure you're not putting your hands on them. Make sure you're not putting your mouth on them. Make sure you're not getting into their head where they cannot think and function. So there are so many other things that we need to talk about as we celebrate the women in our lives. So what I'm going to do is let's just get into it now with our first young lady who is a part of the Tea Talk Club. And I'm just so happy to have all of them are going to be sharing. I think Flair's the only one that's not sharing today because she's out of town. But let's bring on Tracy first. Tracy is a counselor in the school system, and so she knows a lot about that, not only personally, but also the effect of having what she sees in the school system. So Tracy, welcome, welcome, welcome. So good to
Hello.
have you.
Thank you. I'm glad to be here. And it is a very necessary topic to talk about because in our schools, it trickles down to our students. And when we see that violence or that student who's withdrawn, you wonder what's the backstory.
Yes.
And a lot of times it is abuse, some type of abuse going on. But when I researched this topic, I looked up some information from the Women Health Organization. And one of the things that was alarming to me is said 1 in 3 women
Mm.
30% of our women at some point in their lives have been abused, have experienced some type of abuse.
Wow, wow. Let's stop there for a bit and think about that. Let that soak in. So if you're in, say for instance, you're in church on Sunday morning and you have all the women stand up and you count one, two, abused, one, two, abused. One in three women have been abused, okay? And it might be even higher than that, but for sure,
Mhm.
one in three. That is very striking because we go to church every Sunday and we see these women and we don't know what they're going through, but the statistics show that one in three of the women that you talk to that Sunday have been abused.
Right.
Wow.
And between the ages of 15 and 49, that's our target group. And I'm sure I didn't see the breakdown of African American or women of color, but we already know that is a
Mm-hmm.
even higher number.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
You
we're
know,
more.
and when you talked about too, and I know you deal with what age do you deal with the school?
I have middle school, so
Middle
12,
school.
between 12 and 14-year-olds.
And that's what I thought about. That's a lot of times when women start dating
Mhm.
and getting approached by other young men. Sometimes they're the same age and sometimes they're much older. So abuse usually will probably start a whole lot earlier with them, and you can see it in the dating factor. Do you have you seen anything like that in
I
the middle
have.
school?
Well, one of the things that, we always look at the background. Typically, when we look at risk factors, people that come from broken homes or low socioeconomic backgrounds, they've been in homes where there's a lot of abuse. They
Mhm.
become susceptible to it. That's their normal. That's normalized.
That's their normal life.
Yeah,
Wow.
so they tend to not see it as an issue, or I'm so used to this violence
Huh? Okay.
that in this chaos that it's a cycle.
Yeah. Yeah, they become anesthetized to it. That
Mhm.
I heard someone say the other day on the news, they had a shooting and they asked this young man, what did he think about it? He said, well, it happens all the time now. You know, it's not a big, I'm hate it happened, but it happens all the time. So
Right.
our children are growing up being used to seeing violence, being black boys being killed, but they're also seeing it in the homes with their mothers and their aunties. When I was growing up, my every one of my aunties were abused, including my mother. So those are all the women in my life. I saw all of them be physically abused, mentally abused, financially abused. That was not one in three. It was each one of them. That's why I think it's higher.
Mhm.
And so growing up, it affected me because I didn't trust men, and I to the point that I would tell, I told my husband, don't hit me because I can't take it.
Mhm.
I had too much trauma seeing my mom and all my aunties. I said, because, I'm not going to tell y'all what I said I would do to him, but it was not good.
Yeah.
Um, and
Yeah.
I meant it.
Mhm.
Okay. So
Yeah.
how has it affected you? Did you see any of this growing up in your family or in your home?
I did, and just some background from my parents and most people of that era. My mom grew up in a house where there were 9 children, and my dad grew up where there was 14. They had a lot of kids back then. The
Ooh.
women were at home and the men controlled a lot of things. So I grew up in a home where my dad initially was physically abusive to my mother.
Mhm.
As we got older, it became more of verbal and financial abuse. So I'm
Mhm.
gonna control the money, and I'm just gonna that emotional tear on her mind.
Right. Right.
Um, but one of the things that um, my mother did, which I'm appreciative to now, was she always built us up. Because one of the things that women fall into that makes us susceptible to
Mhm.
being abused is having that low self esteem and just accepting whoever comes into my life, I'll just take them and
Mhm.
I'll
Yeah.
take the abuse. And my mom said, no, you're not doing that. You're going to get educated. You're
Mhm.
going to love yourself. I'm going to love yourself. We're going to build you up and you're not going to be vulnerable.
Right, right. And I think that our mothers, even our ancestors, did so much to try to make sure that the girl children did not experience what they experienced. But the reality is, we saw it.
Hmm.
we saw the effects of what it had on our mothers, that they could not go to school. They didn't, a lot of the men did not want them to get educated. They did not want them to work outside of the home, because that meant that they would know more, and then they could not control them. You said that a minute ago, that control thing. So if once your dad was controlling with the physical,
Right.
then he went on to be controlling with the emotional and mental, and even the financial. And that's a big one that women have abuse about too, that people are being abusing them financially, either taking from them or making sure that they don't have enough to be able to do anything with.
Right. And I remember my mom started working. She was making pretty good money, and he asked her to leave the job.
Yeah.
And I remember how she was very resistant. She didn't want to do that because she felt like, I'm at a point now where I finally have some financial independence, and he took that away from her.
Exactly.
So yeah, that, and I just, growing up, I just knew that's not going to be my story. I'm thankful that I married someone who respects me, never put his hands on me,
Hmm.
and just, a gentleman.
Right. Do you find yourself, and I tell Bishop this and I tell everybody this, I had the same thing with my mom, with boyfriends, because in all the marriages that she married, was like four of them, but none of them were good men. They all still wanted to beat on her and take her money. We'd always be fleeing. So
Mm.
my mom put it instilled in me, as a woman, you need to always have a little cash somewhere, a little stash, in
Yeah,
case you need to get out of here with your children.
right.
You got enough money to get you a couple of hotel rooms for a couple of nights. You can find yours. But what men try to do, a lot of them back in, that were abusive, not all men, but they would try to control the money so she couldn't leave. Where's she gonna
Mhm.
go?
Right.
So did you find yourself? I want y'all, all the women, to tell me this. Did you find yourself having your little stash because you couldn't trust men, that you might have to get up and, I used to call it my little run money. If I
I
need to
did,
run.
initially my mom, and I guess it's that era that she said, always just have you some money, just put your hands on some money just in case,
Exactly.
because he
Exactly.
decides to leave or whatever it is. So I think that was just so ingrained
Right.
in us that you just got to have some money because you don't know what he's going to do tomorrow, or you don't know what he's going to do today. So just have
Exactly.
that safety net.
Right. And these men that we talk about, our fathers and stepfathers and so forth, really a lot of them were really good men, but they have been conditioned by other men.
Hmm.
That's the way you handle a
Control
woman.
your woman, and you
Control
hear
your
men
woman.
say that, control your woman. I'm
Yeah,
like,
you
you're
can't
not.
control your woman. You're not running your house.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
it's a control thing, a power, and
Mhm.
that's abuse.
Yes, and when I think back, and I have a son now, so I'm like, I'm having to help him understand. Yes, you're a man. Yes, you're masculine, but that's not control. That doesn't equal that. Just because you're a man doesn't mean that you treat a woman
It's
less
not,
than.
yeah, it's not being a man. And I
Yes.
think a lot of times, the people that we married, or our grandfathers or whatever, they felt like that was being a man. They had been, and I told Bishop this the other day. I said, black men were controlled by the white man. So
Yeah.
when they came home, they wanted to control their woman, because that was their power. They had no power in the world. And so they came home and controlled what they could control. A lot of it was insecurity within them, and fear and anger all built up. And guess who got the brunt of all the anger?
The black
The
women.
black woman,
Yeah.
a good black woman. So, well, good. Thank you. I want to hear from the other ladies too. They've got some information. Did you have anything else you want to share before I move to Sister Shelley?
No, I'm just glad that we're opening this up because it is healing for women to understand that it's not just you dealing with that. This is just it's a worldwide issue, and
Mhm.
that having that support of sisters that understand and can help us through this.
Right.
That's how we've been able to get God, of course, God helped us
Right.
get through this, and then that
Mhm.
network of sisterhood that's helped us get through this.
Now, let me ask you one more thing before I move on. Did your mom tell anybody about this abuse, or did
Oh,
y'all
you
just?
didn't talk about that.
Yeah,
Women back then, they just took it on, and they the way they dealt with it was they helped us learn how to deal with it moving forward.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
that this is what you need to do, so you're not gonna have to deal with, so you don't have
Right,
to deal with it.
right. Or you, if in case you have to run, they
Mhm,
gave you some what do you call these tactics on how survival tactics,
mhm.
and escape tactics, but they felt like they were stuck. They could not escape. And I thought that's very, very sad because a lot of our women, I know my mom was very intelligent and she could have done so much, but because of men
Right.
that said they loved her and with their foot on her neck
Mhm.
to make sure that she could not become all she could become. But she instilled it in me. So I have it in me. And I think we do have to instill it in our daughters, but we got to also instill it in our men. I try to make sure my boys understood that. You abuse your wife, I'm coming after you.
Mhm.
Yes, you're not going to do that. And I'm going to be on her side. It's not going to be good for you. Okay. So
Yeah, yeah.
when they're little, we got to train up our men too, not just
We
train our
do. We do.
women.
Because I remember hearing a guy one time, the guy I was dating a long time ago, and he said, men are trained to mistreat women to keep you in line.
That
And I
keep
thought,
you in
"What?"
line. In your place. You out of your place.
Yeah.
What do you mean what is out of my place?
Yeah, I thought, "Wow, that's
I am not a
horrible." I'm not
dog.
an animal.
Okay, exactly. It's like a piece of livestock,
Mhm,
and it's you're right. It was we've got to break that cycle
mhm,
because I know one of the reports, I think Sister Shelley's report, she was telling me that one of the subtypes that it is curable.
mhm.
It can be stopped.
Right. Exactly.
It's not like a cancer that you got is out of control. No, abusing a woman can stop. Okay. And I told a man one time, Bishop and I were counseling this guy, and he said, I just can't control myself. And Bishop said, oh, if a policeman had a gun to your head, would you tell the police you can't control yourself?
Mhm.
No, you can. You just choose not to because you want to exert your power and authority over this woman. And that's a coward that you would beat up on a woman, like this, and then tell them it's your fault. You made me do it, and all this kind of craziness. But we gotta get our boys, and we gotta train them up better. Okay.
Right.
All right. Let me go, and I'll come back to you again later on, Sister Tracy. Sister Shelley. Sister Shelley is a
Hello.
teacher, and where do
Yes.
you teach?
I teach in Spring ISD. I
What
work at
grade?
two schools, Clawton Middle School and also at an elementary school.
Okay.
Yes, yes,
So
yes.
you're middle and elementary school. Okay, you got both of them.
Yes, both of
Yeah.
them.
So I guess you see some of the acting out too in some of the children as well.
Yes, yes, I do. And I was thinking while you were talking with Tracy, I was thinking about one boy in particular. I don't work with him, but I do work in special education. And I share a space with another teacher, and he's a special education teacher as well. And
Mhm.
he works with a little boy that's emotionally disturbed. And this young boy, sometimes he acts out and he will curse at the teacher.
Mhm.
It's a male teacher, but I told the teacher last week, I said, you really are very, very patient because he knows how to get the boy to calm down and to stop all this verbal abuse. But I said, you know what, that boy, he's in the second grade.
Mm.
And I said, he hears what
Yes,
he's
heard
saying,
that.
he hears
Yes.
it.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
he's repeating what he
Oh
hears.
my goodness.
And
It's a
it's the
cry
sad,
for
it's so
mhm.
sad.
Yeah. It's a painful cry for help.
Mm-hmm.
It's like this because a child that young doesn't know
Mm-mm.
uh, about that. I remember when my little grandson, he came over and he kicked me and he was saying something, and that was like at a year old. And I told her, I said, you need to check the daycare. I said, because somebody's talking harsh to him.
To him,
Some,
yeah.
some of the things he said to me, I know you all didn't say them. So,
Mm-hmm.
uh, and so, of course, I don't allow that. But I had to, first of all, I popped his little leg and told him, you don't kick now.
Right.
But hindsight, my professional wheels started turning and saying, he's seeing this from somewhere and
Mm-hmm.
somebody's doing this to him. So we found out that, yeah, he had a teacher that was doing him that way and putting him in timeout. And so he was seeing that even that abuse not from home, but he
Right.
picked it up from another teacher.
From
So
another teacher.
yeah, so let's talk about that. So how do we identify abuse, or what has been your research in this particular subject?
Yes, well, today I did look up some information about women and, of course, women in abuse and how we can spot a victim.
Oh, good.
Because
Good, good, good.
sometimes people even don't identify it within themselves.
Uh-huh.
But if you see the signs and you see see what those things are, then you can say, oh yes, I am being abused. Because sometimes I've heard that you can live in dysfunction so much
Hello.
that you don't even realize that it's dysfunctional.
Exactly.
So
That's
one
good.
thing that can happen to somebody that's a victim is that they avoid contact with family and friends. They
Yeah, because
may.
they want to isolate you from your family and friends, so you can't tell them what's going on. So they think this is just normal. He's loving me after he says he's sorry. But yeah, that's one of the first things they do is isolate you from
Isolate.
family and friends. That's a sign. Okay, good.
Hmm.
What's another one?
And then also they defend the abuser. And they say,
Hmm.
"Oh, he just works too much," or
Yeah, he was
he was
tired.
tired that night."
I burn the spaghetti, and I know
Hmm.
better than to burn the spaghetti. I've seen them call the police out when the police gets ready to take them in. They're saying, "Please don't arrest him, don't arrest him." So yeah, they defend their abuser.
Yes, defend the abuser, and then also, of course, they cry a lot. So they may have this overlay of depression. Um, and then another thing that I notice is that victims, one way to change is to realize that any abuse is too much. I don't
Yes,
care if it's a tap on the leg, a tap on the face,
right, right.
whatever it is. It's too
You know
much.
what? And you know what I saw. I watch a lot of ID station too, but one of the things they said that men will start to test the water. Like this first time, they just slap you one time, and they say, "Oh,
Hmm.
I'm sorry, I'll never do that again." The next time they slap you and they push you,
Right.
it's progressive.
Yes.
And so it's going to escalate. It will not go away. So you got to stop it the first time it
The first
happens.
time.
Hmm.
Yes. Stop it the first time. And then tell someone. Don't try to keep it a secret.
Hmm.
Tell a trusted person and get some wise counsel. Don't try to hold it in, and
Hmm.
don't think it's your fault. It's not your fault.
Right. Mhm.
It's not something that you're doing.
Right.
It has nothing to do with you. It's with the abuser. That's the choice that they are making.
Right.
Okay, it's
And you
not
know what?
yours.
This is one of the big one too that victims need to do. Tell somebody. Don't hold that secret for that joker.
Right, right.
You in church and he on the deacon board, he's beating your butt. You need to go tell
Hmm.
the pastor. You need to tell
Tell somebody.
everybody
Right.
because sometimes it can be shame but
Hmm.
when you're keeping their secret, you're complicit in helping them abuse you.
To
'Cause
continue.
you
Yes.
hide their abuse. And
Hmm.
so nobody knows and he thinks it's okay because you're helping him to do that.
To continue. Exactly.
Mhm.
And then warning signs of an abuser are people that are cocky. They're real macho.
Yeah.
Um, don't like saying they're sorry, and don't like admitting things that they do that are wrong. They want to put all the blame on you.
Yeah. Kind
And
of
then also,
narcissistic, huh?
yes, like violent mood swings.
Oh,
One day they may be,
yes.
oh, happy, happy, and next day they are violent and abusive towards
Yeah.
you. So
They
watch for
snap
those
and they
mood
lose
swings.
control. Just mood
Hmm.
swings.
Mood swings, yes.
Hmm.
And then for your family, things that family can do to help a person that's in an abusive relationship is to teach your loved one about abuse. Like, what is it? What does it look like?
Mhm.
Like I was just saying, to for the victim to be able to identify these things. But
Mhm.
sometimes, like I said, you're in the situation, so you don't see it. So family members can help by sharing with the victim
Mhm.
the ways that abuse happens.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
be patient, because a lot of times if a person is in that situation, they're scared.
Yeah.
They may not know where to turn. So it's a good thing for family and friends to be patient with the individual that's enduring the abuse.
Yeah,
And
that's good
then,
because we want to just tell them just leave,
right,
just pick up a bat or something, hit him back,
right.
that doesn't work. I mean, so so we have to be careful and be very patient. But on that end of patient, when things escalate to a point, I think we do need to tell them that, hey, I think you need to seek some safety for you and your children at this point.
Right,
Not
right,
saying you're going to be separated forever, but to stay in a situation, it does not get better when it's like that.
right. It doesn't get better. So you
Mhm,
have to get help. It's imperative to get help, because like you said, it's going to get progressively worse.
mhm. And I want to just say something too, Ed, and I think you covered it, but I keep going back to these teenagers because we don't know what love looks like as teenagers. I remember seeing one girl, she said the boy was so protective and so strict on her. He wouldn't let her wear, so he told her what to wear. You can't too
Mm,
short, take that off, or he would, her friends, oh, you can't be friends with that person, da da da. So there were so many things that were controlling that she thought it was love. He loved me so much, that's why he's telling me don't wear that. But I think that teenagers need to be very careful of people who are smothering them. You can't have
right.
any other friends. They tell you what you can wear, where you can go, and those kind of things. You need to be a young teenager that can do whatever you want to do
Exactly.
because you're not married to them. But when you start acting like you're married to them and they start acting like you're married and pushing and shoving and controlling who you talk to, where you go, how long you've been on the phone, where you go, you
Right.
can't go to this party. I think that's a big warning sign for
That is a warning sign.
you.
It's too
Mhm.
much.
Right.
Remember in the news, it's been about maybe a year ago, this young couple went hiking
Hmm.
and they were videoed. At first, they were showing videos like on TikTok and
Yeah.
Instagram. They were having so much fun.
Uh-huh.
And then she ended up missing.
Yes, yes.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And they
And
were
he,
dating. They were dating. They were having this great time. And then all of a sudden, she disappeared. Yeah.
mhm.
They were in their 20s. I remember that
Yeah,
specifically.
a lot of it happens. But see, another thing you just said too, just because people put stuff on Facebook and TikTok like they're having a happy
Happy
time,
time.
that's only a couple of seconds, and they
Mm-hmm.
just pose for that, or they may
Right.
do a little something, but you don't know what goes on behind closed doors. And
Yes.
I think
Yes.
that's something you had on your PowerPoint too about behind closed doors. Some of the stuff I see on TV, it looks like a normal house, but
Right.
inside, hell is going on.
Hell is breaking loose.
Hmm.
Yes. And then here's the Texas Abuse Hotline. If anyone is listening today and you're being faced with this faced with this issue, it's a 1-800 number 252-5400. So please get help if you find yourself in this situation. And remember that it's not going to get better, it's going to get worse.
Exactly. Thank you for sharing that. And there is help, and it is the people and family and friends around you. But if
Yes.
you don't say something, people
Right.
don't know.
Right.
And then when you need help, you need to get help right away because a lot of times the children end up being um,
Affected.
affected by it mentally, emotionally, and sometimes they end up being harmed or even
Right.
killed.
Right.
So you need to get yourself out of that situation and your child. Get you some counseling. Call this abuse hotline. They can help you determine whether or not it was just something that is probably, was a one-time thing, or if it's something that's at the level that you need to get out.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to bring, thank you, Sister Shelley. I appreciate that so much. Did you have anything else you wanted to say on your PowerPoint?
Um, no, that was it. Just the main thing I was thinking about the children, like the little boy at school. I don't know what it is. I just noticed since the pandemic
Right.
that there are more children that have emotional problems. They
Wow.
scream, they holler, they're falling out. And I'm like, what in the world is going on with our children? And
Yeah.
I think it's because of what they're seeing in homes.
Yeah.
And so it's so important to for us to be a healthy people, to
Right.
get help. Don't stay
Mhm.
stuck in a situation that's damaging.
Exactly. Well, you said a key word too that we tend to kind of forget. But when the pandemic came, I remember when we all had to be shut in the house together. We couldn't go to the store and go places.
Mhm.
One of the things that Bishop and I kind of laughed about, we said it's going to be a whole bunch of babies being born because everybody's staying in the house, can't
Staying
go
at
out.
home.
And I said, yeah, there's going to be a whole lot of abuse going on because a lot of people are not used to staying together.
Yes.
and
Right.
and they live together, but people don't really want to be around each other that kind of way.
Mhm.
And so somebody ends up getting on somebody's nerve or
Mhm.
always saying the wrong thing, and you look up and even losing jobs and sick. Oh yeah, fights can break out, and the violence did go up
It did go up.
in the homes because of COVID. And
Mhm.
so that was 2 years.
Right.
2 years that our children couldn't go to school and play and get away from that. So they were right there in the mix
Right
of
there
it.
with
So,
it.
yeah. So, well, I see that Sister Kamala's on here too. So welcome, Sister Kamala. We're glad to have you. I was trying to get you on, but I couldn't get your information earlier. But if you would like to share that information on the area there, um, people, I can read it or make sure we can get everybody to look at it. Because you'd have to go into to with
The
Tish.
chat.
Yeah, you'd have to go into there to get this, but you can write it in the chat room. But I don't know if it's too late to get you into the live area. But that's what I was trying to get you to do. But she has a great activities coming up, I think on the 28th, and so she'll put it in the chat room. So y'all look at it. It's got, I think, a website and all that stuff. You can read about it, and this has to do with Women's History Month. So I'll let her do that, and we may come back. All right. So thank you so much, Sister Shelley. And so now let's go to Sister Deborah. Sister Deborah, with
Hi.
your beautiful yellow on, and I had on your red slippers and match your red. Welcome. How are you?
I'm doing okay.
Okay, well, good. So tell us about any experience that you have had with women in violence, or and how it's impacted you, or maybe children or people that you know.
Well, I guess the biggest experience I had is being married to a pastor and, and having pastor wives as friends and, just the emotional and mental abuse,
Yes.
because you can find that sometimes, not everybody, but sometimes the men are one thing in
Mm-hmm.
front of everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
But it's a whole different story when you're home,
Wow.
and for a lot of pastors' wives that I knew back then, it was more of the pastor being readily available to everybody at the church,
Lord
but not
Jesus.
available for his wife.
Wow. You better come on and share
Yeah.
that.
And I used to use this example of you can go and paint the whole church, but you can't even put a light bulb up at home.
Woo.
You know,
And
so
it's to just tell the truth.
yeah, it was really hurtful, and it makes the wife feel resentful
Mm-hmm.
towards the people at the church. And
Yeah.
it's really not, their fault. And I used to always say that God created family before he created the church. So
Mm.
you got to lead by example
Mm-hmm.
and care about your family first.
Right.
God's going to take care of the church.
Mm-hmm. Because it's his church.
With
It's
his
not
church.
yours.
Right. Right. And it says nothing against the calling,
No,
because
no,
you
no, no.
don't, but it's what you do,
Mm-hmm.
because a lot of things we do at church is God's work.
Mm-hmm.
Is, keep them
Yeah.
busy, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. Or even getting away from the home. And I've shared this with you guys before. And it's just funny that you bring up the church, because we're supposed to be the lighthouse. We're supposed to be there
right,
for people to help them. And but the truth is, some pastors have grown up in unhealthy households.
right,
They didn't have the right father or mother or situation,
right,
and they've been trained how to be a pastor the
right,
way, from a man who is saying, this is how you treat a woman, keep a
mhm,
woman in her place, and you
right,
run your house and you run the church, and you keep your wife out of the church.
right,
um, yeah, so just like women are said, at home, keep them in their place at home.
right,
Now, you and I both know, and any female pastors on here know, or women that are in the church leadership know, that some men, and thank God First Med is not like that, but First Med has been through some stuff like that over the years. And of course, I wasn't trying to have it, and Bishop wasn't trying to have it, but he came up in that kind of church.
yes,
So
yes,
some of that stuff is still in him. So we had to kind of
mhm,
grow out of it.
right.
Yeah. So
And and the lady, and another abuse that I can think about is when you talked about the ministers, back when
uh-huh.
being beat up from the pulpit.
Ooh.
with the words that were
Yeah,
said. And, people, all they have to do is put two and two together.
they know. Hmm.
Yeah. And know who you're talking about. That was very hurtful.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've had that happen to me.
Mm.
And, that's pain. When you talked about how when I came to first met, it's really standoffish. And I
Yeah.
still have some of that.
Yeah.
But it's because of that kind of stuff.
Exactly.
If I
So
do
that
too
kind of abuse is you don't see the physical scars, but
right,
it's deep down in
it's
your heart,
deep.
your soul,
Yeah,
it's
it's
in your
deep down in me.
psyche, it's all over you about your esteem. When you talk down to a person, talk about a person publicly and put them
Yes,
down, the esteem of a woman.
yes, yes.
And it's not just pastors' wives, but that is I do see that a lot
Right,
with pastors' wives.
right, right. Because I remember being the victim of that, and I was helping. And I had been a pastor's wife. So I knew the ins and outs there, but I was a help and I knew that I was asset.
Mhm.
But because you felt threatened as a man because people were, saying, oh, how I enjoyed what you did and it was great and it was this and that. There you go.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I also told you all, and I'm saying this, and like I said, the churches that we know today, most of those pastors have their wives included in the church.
Yeah.
And it's not like it was when I was
Right.
growing up. But when I was growing up, the pastor's wife had one spot in that church. She was to sit on that second pew on the corner, wear her hat and her gloves, keep her mouth shut,
Yeah. Yep.
come in and go home.
That's it.
Don't talk to nobody. Don't be involved in nothing. I got plenty of women to take care of everything I need around the church. They wouldn't let her work, so you were ostracized. So I I just really all the time want to just minister to women, especially pastors, and say, I'm sorry
Yeah.
that happened to you, but I'm sorry that it happened to a lot of women because men, period, sometimes want to. They've been taught
Mm-hmm.
to put a woman in her place.
Right.
And if you don't hit her with your fist, it's okay to cuss her out.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't cuss her out, it's okay to make her feel like she's this big and that
Right.
she's nothing to you.
Right.
And so, as we are looking at women, celebrating women, I think men need to think about that and see what can I do to esteem my
Mhm.
wife, my sister, the
Right.
person who is working for me,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to putting my neck on the foot to make sure I have the control and the power.
Right.
So how has this affected you or any of your children or grandkids? Because I know your kids probably saw some of this too.
Well, my daughter, I really shielded my daughter. I
Okay.
mean, she never has told me anything that she saw, because I really did put on that happy face. I had,
Yes. Oh my
you know,
goodness. Woo.
because I was determined for her not to be growing up in that kind of situation when, I grew up in being, seeing my mom being abused.
Yeah, see, me
And
too. How did that make you feel when you saw your mama being abused?
while it was hard. And when I got older, I told my dad, I said, you really had the right one. I said, because if I would have been your wife,
You told your dad that?
I did when I got much older. Yes, because and that has affected my whole life,
Yeah.
a lot of other, and just even the being raped, you
Yeah.
know, been raped, been mentally abused. I haven't been physically abused,
Yeah.
but it's just it's devastating. It
Yeah.
really affects your whole life and how you trust people and how you
Mhm.
mingle with people and how you just accept what it is or reject what it is that they try to give.
Wow.
It
Wow.
really does.
Yeah. And
And
I go back to that 1 in 3 women feel that
yeah,
way.
yeah. Because in my sister, she said that, I mean, she is like a man doesn't have a chance with her.
Wow.
You will not do to me
Mm-mm,
what was done to my mom.
mm-mm. Not gonna happen.
Nope.
That's what I did too. Now, growing up, I saw like I said, all of my mother's sisters. I was present when they were physically abused. And one of them got cut, and I was there when she got cut.
Oh,
And as little girls, we would hide up under the bed, hide in the closets. We would cry, and the person would see us there and would not care. But I just thought, growing up, I can't trust a man. I
right,
can't trust him with my heart, my
right.
life. I got to always be on guard. So that did affect me a lot
Mm-hmm.
with my
Right.
mother. So much to the point. Let me tell you what else I did. Now, when I was a little girl, we hid up on the bed. When I got to be a teenager, we tried to fight that joker. We, I had a desk, and the leg on the desk was almost as tall as me.
Hmm.
I went after him with that desk.
I
It's
know
like
that's
a bat.
right.
He jumped through the window, and when
Yeah.
they started call the police on me. But I
Mhm.
was gonna whoop him that night because he had whooped my mom.
Right.
And here's the danger in that. He had a gun, but I was
Yeah.
too young to really realize that he could have killed us.
Right.
Where I'm trying to hit him with a bat, he's got a gun. So,
Mhm.
and then my sister chased him up the street with a pot of lye because we had bought some lye to throw on him.
Hmm.
So we wasn't playing with this man. I'm like, you are not gonna beat
Right.
up. But my point is this: my sister pulled a knife on one of them.
Mhm.
And here's the thing: you put your children in a bad situation
Right.
because we could have been killed, justifiably so, because he could have told the policeman, she came at me with this thing, I fear for
Right.
my life, and I shot her. You know,
Right.
we're teenagers, we're not fearful of anything. We came out of the projects, we would whoop you. So we were
Mhm.
not afraid, but that trying to take up from my mom
Mhm.
could have gotten us all killed.
Right. And another thing that we don't take into consideration too is that some of these men are mentally challenged.
Yes.
They have borderline personality disorder. They're
Yep.
suffering with PTSD. They're depressed. They're suicidal.
Bipolar,
Bipolar. Yeah,
schizophrenia, all that stuff.
exactly. And when they have the mental disorder, they're not afraid of what you can do.
They're not. And then to put on top of that, I heard someone put in the chat earlier that most of the women and men who are susceptible to this or who are participants, either way, usually go to drugs and alcohol. And
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
really concerned about that because when I go out to eat, our women are jugging down those drinks. I
yeah,
mean, they are
yeah,
inebriated, spending money on drinks. They're trying to drink away,
yeah.
and they're trying to find happy doing happy hour when
Right.
it's just taking their money away from them and making them more dependent on liquor and alcohol. And I
Or
think that has
drugs.
yeah, I think they're trying to find happiness.
Yeah.
They're getting worse and with the drugs.
Right. And they get the prescription drugs. So,
Yes,
and
yes.
so they get hooked on those because it just kind of numbs the pain,
Mm.
And so they get so hooked because they like the feeling
Yeah,
of
yeah.
the numbing that pain.
Hmm. Well, I saw somewhere once years ago that they said we as women raise our daughters, but we love our sons.
Hmm.
So we need to start raising both of them. We
Yes.
tell the woman what to look out for,
Yeah.
how to run, how to hide, how to, stay in your place. That's
Yeah.
another one. You need to stay in your place. I never forget we went to somewhere in Mississippi and I was pregnant and they were saying we were cooking in the kitchen, getting all the food ready, and they put it on the table. They told us we had to stay in the kitchen. I'm like, well, when do we eat? They said after the men eat. I said, what? You mean we done cooked all this food? We can't eat with the men. They said, oh no, you gotta let the men eat first. And then after they eat, we can have what's left over.
Wow.
It was in Mississippi. I said, so y'all were raised like I said, girl, we don't play this in Texas.
Right.
I kill Mister, get my piece of chicken, but that hardness within me and that fear as a little girl has made me not fear men. And
Yeah.
so growing up, I remember I tried to fight a boy who was picking on my sister because, I didn't have no fear of him being a man
Right.
because I saw fighting all my life. So yeah, I'll fight a man. I'll fight whoever.
That Lady O, you sound like me. I told him I don't care how big he is. It's on.
It's on.
And I said that about my when raising my daughter because of the stuff that we went, that I went through.
Right,
This
right.
will not happen to her. And
Her.
if I have to die, I
Mm,
will die fighting for her.
for her. Yeah. Yeah.
You're not gonna touch her.
Right, right. I know. And so we mother-in-laws have to stay out of stuff because I know I'll be watching my son-in-law too. He already know the game before he married her.
Yes,
And
yeah,
so he's a great son-in-law. Nobody's perfect,
right,
all of our men have issues, and so do we.
right.
But most of them have come from the way we were raised and our experiences that
Mm,
mess with our minds.
yes, yeah,
Okay, because it gives us this thing of wanting to have control and manipulate people,
right.
or it's saying that it's okay for people to manipulate us and control us, and that's one of the things I have a problem with women.
Mm,
And I have to be patient because I'm like, how you gonna let that man talk to you like that? How
yeah,
you? Oh no, you can't be my friend if you gonna let him walk over you like that and do all that. I can't be your friend because I'm gonna say something. He gonna try to tell my husband. I did have a man one time said, so you can't control your wife. I tell my I'm not a puppy dog. Okay.
hmm, right,
No. So people say that because it's ingrained in them, and a lot of times they don't mean any harm. But we have got to change. Our
right,
Black women are our queens, men and
mm,
boys, and we have got to learn how to treat them. But women, we got to learn how to not be so gullible and to take anything that comes along that says you're cute or they want to get with
right.
you, and you forego your emotions, who
Hmm.
you are, because what you end up with is low self-esteem.
They thinking about when you said that about how many times they say my protector.
Hmm.
Because he's showing that can't anybody do anything to me. I know he loves me. He's protecting me, but all the while he's abusing you.
Yes, yes,
You
yes.
don't have to have somebody to protect you,
Right, right,
and
right.
then abuse you.
And then abuse you.
And
Wow.
we have to be. I'll say this last. We have to be kind of careful too. We as women,
Hmm.
how
Hmm.
being judgmental of other women because we
That's
don't know
true.
their story.
That's true. That's true. And that's the thing, we have to be careful because a lot of times women won't share because they feel like you're going to be
Judgment.
judgmental.
Yep.
They feel like you've got it all together and this has never happened to you before, so you won't understand, or you're going to look at them in a certain way. And so, like I said, that's something I have to had to, because I'm much better. Um, I don't kick my friends to the curb now because they're abused, but I just kind of help get some help. But I think the other thing I want to talk about before, because our time is going so fast, this is such an important topic. But I think the other thing that we need to understand of what is abuse, okay, it's not just somebody putting their hands on you. It can be mental abuse, where somebody's in your mind telling you you're nothing or treating you as you're nothing, that kind of thing. Okay. It could be emotional abuse, where they're playing with your mind and they're like growing up, what I had was emotional abuse, and I thought was emotional abuse, is that these men, and I'm gonna say East at my thing, they call them East Texas men, where they would have a wife and they'd have 3 or 4 mistresses across the city. They take their money and go spend it on their mistresses or whatever. And then the wife is at home trying to put together beans and cornbread or whatever. And then they would have affairs on them, and they would know it. They would make you their mistresses. I've seen women that they couldn't leave the guy because that was their property. You belong to me. And if you try to leave me, I will cut you, I will kill you, I will beat you. And if you call the policemen usually don't do anything about it.
Hmm.
Or in some cases, like we said earlier, I think Tracy, we said that if they call the police, then they don't want you to, the woman doesn't want the police to take them to the jail
Hmm. Hmm.
because they quote unquote love them, and they think, well, I did something wrong. I came in, I rubbed them the wrong way. So
Mhm.
it's mental abuse, physical abuse, verbal abuse. That's the one I want to
Verbal.
get to.
Mhm.
Hmm.
If a man is talking to you any kind of way and always yelling at you or whatever, and you to the point that you feel so like you're nothing, that's
Hmm.
he didn't put a hand on you, but verbally he has cut you and stabbed you in every kind of way.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to think about police back in the day was predominantly men
Mhm.
Yes.
that were in that position, and they
So,
were going to defend their brotherhood. So, and they saw, a lot of times they would see you as property. So if y'all were
right.
having issues, that was internal. Y'all deal with that at home. I'm not touching that.
Exactly.
And now you have more. It's we get more support today because of all the legislation and the Me Too movements and everything else. But back in the day, that was y'all's issue.
Exactly. Because
Mm.
you said it right. And really, we were property.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Some point, women were
Considered
property. So if you call the police, you couldn't get, and you couldn't get a divorce.
property.
You had to go to court. Remember, I don't know if y'all remember divorce court back in the day. You had to go to the court and you had to plead your case as to why you wanted a divorce. And most of the time, they would not give it to you. Okay, so let's go back and see. So anybody else having this? Okay, here's the phone is up again. The number to text home to 741-741 to connect with a volunteer crisis counselor. The main thing we can tell you today is don't stay in that situation. You can go to www.wannatalkaboutit.com and talk to somebody who doesn't even know you, who is experiencing that, who can help you. There are people who are out there that's what they want to do. Some of them, most of them have been through it themselves. Call the Texas Abuse Hotline. Do not hide him, and then they'll tell you how to get out of the situation safely. Because another statistics that we didn't give is that when women are in a situation like that, the time that they're most vulnerable is when they try to escape. If they try to leave the man, they end up dead or missing or whatever. So they're afraid to leave. So we know it's not that easy, guys, but
Mm.
you gotta get some help. You don't have to stay in there. First of all, try not to get in there, and then if you get in there and you see you in there, try to get out right away. Don't stay too long.
Right.
Get you some
Yes.
counseling. If you stay too
Right.
long, the longer you stay, then you should have children and the children get involved in it and it just becomes bad. Do you all have we are about out of time. Does anybody have a parting note that they would like to share today before we get off?
I just wanted to say too that we should not just settle as women just to have a man. You know,
Yes.
some women take the abuse just to say I have one.
Right.
Wow. You just said a mouthful because
That
that's
is a
really
mouthful.
the answer to why women stay in the marriage or in the situation, because they feel like no man is abused man is better than no man. Some piece of man is better than no man. And
Mm-hmm.
they feel, and it's the self-esteem, they feel like they gotta have a man.
Mhm.
I can't go to the Christmas party. I don't have a date. I'm incomplete because I've got to walk in as a single woman. So I think we have to get and build our self-esteem up, build up each other,
Yeah.
get involved in some other things and realize you are not defined by a man.
Right.
That man does not define who you are. That man is not responsible for your health, your happiness. He's not even responsible for your finances. But if you get out, you can. My mother would always get back on her feet. But I think about how much money and time and energy she lost because she kept selecting the wrong one. But one thing she would do, she would get out of it real quick. I think our time is about up. Anybody else have a last parting comment?
Lady O, Dr. Williams posted something here, an event that's happening at Prairie View University.
Yes, yes, it's in the chat room here. So you all, please, if you can go, please go and support. I was trying to get her on the show, but I couldn't get the communication back so she could have shared it. But it's in the chat, so go read that. And it's got a website there. Click on that and find out more information about it. And hopefully we'll be able to have her on another time, okay? Well,
Yes.
listen, it's been wonderful. And like I said, we love you, ladies. Love yourself enough to get out of that situation because there is hope on the other side of being abused. We love you. We'll see you next week at 3 for Tea with Lady O. Bye for now.